All right, go for it.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Meet the Counselors meeting. It seems like it was a few short months ago where I was talking about how that little move on the other side of the flagpole is a really, really big deal. And I think we've experienced that it can be a little bit of a jolt and a little bit of a big deal at times, but over time it gets better and we become used to it. And the focus of this meeting is, now that we've had a chance to adjust to ninth grade with our ninth grade counselor, we're shifting gears into the more rigorous years of high school. And there's a lot of resources and supports in place. And we wanted to, reorient you with our guidance team. So while we're shifting over to rigor, we also want to, reiterate that planning a program that's well balanced and aligned to a student's passions are extremely important. And our counselors are very well versed in helping students do that. So you don't need to hear that from me much more than my respect and admiration for the work that they do every day. I'm going to just turn it over to them, and I'm really glad you're joining us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Levy, and she'll take it from here.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you all, and thank you, Dr. Laverso. So today we're going to talk about course selection. And I'm going to walk you through the role of the counselor. So sort of as a continuation of Miss Ford's role as the ninth grade counselor, our role as your child's counselors for grades 10 through 12 is to support their academic, their social, and their emotional growth. So alongside myself, the other 10 through 12th grade counselors are Miss Cohen, Sasson Jacob, and also Mr. Kind. And your child's counselor assignment, as you can see on the slide, can be found in the backpack tab in Infinite Campus with the file name letter counselor information 2526. So just be sure to take a look to see who your child's counselor is, and also their meeting time if you haven't already. And then just to provide some details of how we work with your child. So social emotionally, just like Ms. Ford does, we assist with students in managing personal challenges and really building resilience both in and outside of the classroom. Academically, we provide guidance through individual course selection meetings like we have coming up. And we obviously ensure that all graduation requirements are being met. And then we also conduct classroom lessons. So specifically for 10th and 11th graders, we focus on post-secondary planning. In 10th grade, these lessons focus on passions and interests as it relates to selecting courses, as well as career aspirations. And then in 11th grade, it's much more focused on the specifics of the college process. So in 10th grade, in addition to those push-ins, as well as our course selection meeting, we also begin to introduce conversations surrounding standardized testing. And students will also have the opportunity to actually take the BSAT at Bronxville during the fall of their sophomore year. So as it relates to testing, at this stage, there's no need to be overly concerned and really not so much to do. Those conversations can sort of be integrated into our course selection meetings as well, and we're happy to answer any questions. And then lastly, one piece of logistical information. So if your child has a 504 plan or an IEP, you may notice that the time provided for the course selection meetings overlaps with the annual review meeting time. So during the 9th to 10th grade and then the 10th to 11th grade annual reviews, we also use that time to discuss course selection meetings. So I just wanted to note that and prevent any confusion. And so that's my piece of this. And next, we're going to cover some course options for your child to select during our course selection meetings together, and looking forward to meeting every one of you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Hassan-Jakai, otherwise known as Miss H. I'm very happy to meet you all and looking forward to meeting your students. So in 10th grade, similarly to 9th grade, there's a lot of required courses that need to take place in your child's schedule, but there are also a lot of elective opportunities and other options, which we'll speak about a little later. So specifically for English, everyone's going to take English 10H, similarly to 9th grade. And each year for English, there is a specific theme that the department has chosen to focus on. So for 10th grade, your child can look forward to the theme of individuals as part of society. And a couple of the works that they'll read include 1984 Shawshank Redemption, among others. For science, every student needs to take our core sciences. So in 10th grade, it's core biology and core earth science. Unlike chem physics that runs as one class, these are two separate classes, and they're each a semester long, just to give your child a taste of each course. And then for math, there's a lovely graphic available on the high school website, course catalog. It covers the different math tracks. So if you look at that image, you'll be able to see what the next course in their track is. It'll also be available on Infinite Campus when looking at next year's schedule. For world language, similarly to math, you just kind of move up to the next level. So for sophomores, that'll typically be a level 3, or if you've changed languages or you moved here in 9th grade, you may be in level 2. Then for fine arts, if your child took Studio Art 1 in freshman year, they can move on to Studio Art 2 if they wish to continue in art. Or if your child's in music, they could just continue in whichever music they've selected. And then there's a couple more things on the next slide that I'll talk about. So as freshmen, we specifically don't offer any AP courses. They're just transitioning to high school. The workload is significantly higher than middle school. So in 9th grade, it's really about getting used to the rigor of high school. And then in 10th grade, your students are able to take, it's their first opportunity to take AP courses, but they do not need to take an AP course in 10th grade. It is an option. So one of the courses is world history. So whether you're at an honors level or an AP level, you're taking world history. So these will cover the 1500s through modern day, and it's going to be across the world. And in the AP course, it's a much greater depth. It's a much higher workload, and it's a college level course. So it's college level material. World History 2H, you'll still get that breadth of knowledge in world history, but maybe if history isn't your child's thing, per se, maybe they want to stick with the honors level. There was a placement exam, I believe it happened last week, where students did a writing sample, and the history department is in the process of reviewing those, and your child's recommendation should be available on Infinite Campus by the end of this week. So it's just, thinking about the level of rigor and interest in the course when thinking about possibly taking the leap to an AP level. For science, there are some college level courses available for 10th grade students, those of which are in chemistry and environmental science. So this is for students who have either completed their core requirements already, or they wish to take these courses and have the required prereqs to take them. These are also college level courses that have heavy workloads, and there's also 2 labs a cycle, as opposed to the 1 lab a cycle that your child will have for core. And there's also Bronx River Research. That's a hands-on research course that could be taken in addition, but those core requirements are #1 priority. And there's always opportunities in junior and senior year as well to take an AP Science. So with that, I believe Ms. Cohen will be talking a little more about some of the elective offerings.
Everyone, so nice to see you, and thank you so much for taking your time to join us on this today. I am going to talk a little bit about electives, as Ms. H mentioned. In addition to the 5 core academic courses, which are the backbone of your curriculum for 10th grade, we do offer elective courses. There is space for, in most cases, 2 full-year elective courses, in addition to the 5 major subjects. And on this slide, you can see some of the elective offerings that we have. The parentheses with an H next to it means it's a semester-long class, so that would be half a year. In the English department, we offer speech and debate. In the history department, we offer Bronco TV and psychology. In science, we have some half-year classes like fundamentals of engineering, intro to Java, robotics, entrepreneurship 1 and entrepreneurship 2, AP Computer Science A, which is a full year class, and AP Computer Science Principles for our students who are really interested in computer science. It's worth noting that those are also, as I mentioned, and as Ms. H mentioned, AP level classes, which mean they have a lot of work. So if you are considering one of those as an elective, you should take that into account when picking your major subjects as well. Because a major subject in an AP level combined with an elective in an AP level is going to make a very tremendous workload for you. So we just want everyone to be mindful, and we will speak to our students about this in the individual meetings because balance is important. The world language department offers electives in philosophy and mythology. Those electives are in English, but foreign world language teachers teach them, so they're technically under that department. And then some other electives in the arts and performing arts. Some of you may have done some of these this year as well. Studio art, photography, computer arts, ceramics, creative crafts. AP Art History, again, another AP level course. So if that's something you have in mind, serious consideration when considering with your other major subject classes, and the performing arts classes, of course, orchestra, band, chorus, acting, and directing. So must take versus options and electives, just so we're clear. The must takes are the 5 backbone courses that we talked about: English, world history in some form, core science, math, and phys ed. And a full year course or 2 semester long electives in addition to that. The options to consider is which world history you would want to do. If there's an elective science you want to do, as mentioned below, there's some AP courses, or also Bronx River Research, which is the hands-on research class, or another elective.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Echo what Ellen said. Thank you for taking some time to join us to hear about, I guess, our department and the course offerings. So now that Ellen has recapped what's out there to choose from, there's a big piece of I guess you could say strategy, or just planning, or things to consider when making these choices. I would say these 5 pieces are pretty big driving forces in how the counselors think about advising students. And so we're sharing this with you as parents to sort of plant a seed in your head about how you think about, just discussions you have with your child about what they should take during 10th grade and in subsequent years, quite frankly. So this, these pieces are going to be of a different size, or a different weight, or a different emphasis for different students. Some students, the transition to 9th grade was a lot easier than for somebody else, and for others it was much more challenging. And so everybody sort of enters, each year of school on their own path, and with their own sort of level of comfortability and sort of preparedness to take on more challenging courses. Obviously, as you heard, 10th grade is the first time you can take some of these AP offerings, which are definitely introductory level college courses. And for, every 15-year-old or 16-year-old, that's not appropriate. And that is totally okay. I want to definitely emphasize that nobody is getting into college in 10th grade. Nobody's course selection drives a college decision by the courses that they make in 10th grade. But what you can do is kind of take on too much as a 10th grader, and sort of that foundation and your grades and your average that you've established and are quite proud of as a 9th grader can begin to, I guess, falter or dip, if you will. And you really want to prevent that, if you can. So really using this past year as the data point to decide on what you should take for next year. So were the honors level courses that I was in this year too rigorous? Was the amount of courses, my overall course load, too much? Are my extracurricular commitments next year going to be increased because I'll be playing for another team, or maybe at the varsity level, or maybe my sibling is getting older and I need to take more care of them at home, or there's other responsibilities outside of school that are going to interfere with any one person's ability to manage their time. And thus, you know, with these advanced placement courses, and frankly, even with some of the elective courses that are non-AP offerings, there's an increased amount of time that they're going to have to spend, you know, preparing, studying, writing, and obviously time spent in class. So these are all really good sort of lenses to see your child through and to think about when discussing with your child, like what they're thinking about for 10th grade. I did think I saw a hand come up. So after this slide, I'm going to go back to the other screen and be able to sort of see what came through. Just a few last things to consider. A balanced schedule is of utmost importance. The quantity of your classes is not as important as the quality of your classes. What I mean by that is just like taking on additional coursework to take on additional classes does not, again, get you any accolades or awards. It just gives you more class time. It gives you more work to do. If you're interested in those courses and you're passionate about those courses, by all means, but to just sort of like overschedule yourself is not necessarily the best approach. And again, just like, you know, building off of that, if there are classes your child is interested in, by all means they should take them. If there's classes that your child has no interest in, by all means, you do not have to take it, right? We were giving presentations to 10th graders a few weeks ago. There were 2 students in the hall talking about classes for next year. The student said to their friend, what do you know about this class? And the friend said, oh, I heard it's really hard. Then he said, do you like math? And the student was like, no, I don't like math, but I have to take this class. And, you know, I spoke to that student after hearing that, and I'm sharing with all of you, and we shared with the 10th graders, and frankly, we shared with the 9th graders, like, you do not have to take that class, whichever that class is. There's by no means any must as it comes to these electives. There's obviously the requirements that you're required to take, but there's nothing that you have to do. Some of the students, many of the students are ready for advanced coursework, and that's great. Not all of them are ready for advanced coursework, and that too is okay. Everybody is on their own path, and everybody's on their own timeline. I think it was either Deanna or Ellen, right? Like you're gonna have very similar choices, actually more choices in 11th grade, that many more choices in 12th grade. You really want to pace yourself. You don't want to overload yourself, and you want to make sure you're choosing your choices are coming from a place of like interests and strengths, or potentially curiosity and strengths, versus like musts or needing to, because there's nothing that you must take, particularly when it comes to advanced coursework. So I'm going to try to get some of these hands that I saw come up. So let me just, Emily, I saw your hand come up. Let me see if I can get you on here. Emily, I'm gonna allow you to speak if that's okay. Did you want to say something, Emily?
I hope I wasn't talking over you guys. I'm sorry. I meant to be on mute.
No, it's quite
We
all
didn't
right.
hear anything.
I just saw
Oh,
you
thank
have,
goodness.
like you raise your hand. You're good.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. There was a question that came through, so I'm just going to read this total class. Yeah, so total classes to be selected. So you have English, you have history, you have math, you have science. So you definitely have those 4 core classes. all students are required to take 5.5 credits. Phys ed is a half a credit, so that gets you to 4.5. So from there, you know, many students will take an additional year of language, so that gets you to 5.5. But that is where I think it was on Ellen's slide that it was either like an additional full year course or 2 semester courses. So that would get you to 6 classes to choose from. But I guess it ultimately comes down to how many full year courses are you choosing to take versus how many electives are you choosing to take. And, you know, the idea of no longer taking a world language course is probably very much an individual choice and something you can definitely discuss with your child's counselor. Definitely the vast majority of students take a language course for 4 years for that matter, but definitely into sophomore year. I don't know if I can only see these questions, but I guess I'll keep going. There was a question about what should parents do to prepare, excuse me, for the first meeting. I don't know that there's much you need to do. I mean, definitely speaking with your child about where their head is at as it relates to courses and beginning to have that conversation with them. Maybe looking through the course guide as well to see some of the course offerings. There's no like front loading of information that we need. I will share that, you know, in addition to just working very closely with Marina throughout the year, the 4 counselors and Ray for that matter, we did meet with her not too long ago to talk about many of the 9th graders. So I would say all of us are kind of brought up to speed on what's going on with our individual students. So there's nothing that necessarily you need to, no pre-work that you need to do prior to the meeting with your child's counselor. Deanna, do you see these questions?
Yes, let me look, let's see. So someone asked, is there a difference between half-year electives and full-year courses? So basically, it's just like the length of time that you're in. So for a full-year class, that'll be the core classes minus science, as I explained. They're like 2 half-year courses. That just means for the semester-long courses will either start in September and end in January, or start end of January through end of June. So a full year class is 1 credit, elective for half year is 0.5 credits. So it just really is just the length of time that you're in the class is the main difference.
I can answer the next one about students taking 2 languages. So the answer is yes, pending it fits into a student's schedule. And of course, if a student is deciding to double up in a world language, which is wonderful, it will mean foregoing the opportunity to take another elective option. So definitely worth speaking with your child's counselor if that's a topic of interest.
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna
go.
do it. I'll do something.
Okay, go, please.
Use all our voices. Will mythology definitely be offered this year? It was a last minute scratch next year. The reason mythology was canceled for this school year was due to low enrollment. You know, here we are in the Bronxville school. We're blessed in many ways to have such a small district, but unfortunately sometimes that comes into play. And if we don't have sufficient enrollment for a class, which usually, you know, if we're close to 10, we'll run a class. But, you know, if we have like 6 kids signed up for a class, we don't run it. So that is why mythology did not run, and the same can happen for any elective. But we are hopeful that it will run this year, and it is certainly on the roster for consideration. But I can keep going.
Okay, keep going.
What's the deadline for selection or any courses prerequisites for future courses? There isn't like a hard deadline for selection. The reason that we have these course planning meetings scheduled is so that we can schedule those courses with you while we are in the meeting, and we will input them into Infinite Campus. That being said, if you leave our offices and you have a follow-up thought or any questions, of course, we are totally receptive to that and happy to talk to you. But we would like the courses to be, for the most part, set in this meeting, and then any follow-up thoughts, within the weeks to come, so everything is set for the end of the school year. And then I think there was a second part of the question, although maybe it went away. What was it about?
About prerequisites.
Prerequisites. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of prerequisites for, I guess, other classes. Math is sequential, foreign language is sequential. And then, so it's important to, speak to your counselor if there's things that you have the goal of taking in the end. You can of course always see our course catalog online for what would be coming in 11th and 12th grade, and just make sure you're set up to take, the courses that you'd like to take in the future. But I guess it's a little bit of a vague question, so it's hard to answer specifically. When you meet with your counselor, if you have fields of interest, please share them with us, and we're happy to, talk about immediate things for next year as well as things for the coming years.
And one just major thing to add to that, whereas for non-AP courses, a child's schedule can be changed and classes can be add and dropped within our add drop period at the beginning of the school year. That is not the same thing for AP courses. So a major prerequisite to taking and enrolling in an AP course is summer work. So before the student's first day of school, adjustments can be made to the schedule if necessary, but they cannot enter a class without submitting the AP summer work, which happens on the first day.
And also in the course catalog, you'll see, if you're interested in an AP course, what the prerequisite is for those AP courses. Every AP course has some kind of prerequisite, whether it's a grade in the preceding class, that's most commonly the prerequisite you'll see. Or you need to be in a certain grade level or something like that. Is 10th grade course load a big step up from 9th? Any additional college prep things that a student should consider in 10th grade? Well, as we've talked about, there's a lot of choices for 10th. In 9th, everyone is taking pretty much the same framework of classes at the honors level. So if in 10th grade you were to continue taking everything at the honors level, it would be the same level as 9th grade. And although, slightly more in depth as students mature and grow up, not a drastic difference in workload. However, if a student chooses to take any AP course options or double in a foreign language, which would be like an extra major subject, or double in science, then it is going to be a significant increase in workload because there's just, more work for those kind of classes. Who wants to go next? Now I'm getting tired of hearing myself.
I was actually in the midst of typing. We can skip and go back. A question about skills and support classes. Basically that determination or that recommendation in terms of skills classes is made and discussed during the annual review. So your child's current special education teacher, in conjunction with the counselor, the parent, and the student, and our school psychologist, will determine based off of how your child is doing this year, what the recommended level of support will be for the following year. And that type of meeting happens every single year. So if, a determination is made that the number of skills or support classes can be reduced, then that absolutely would free up more time in the child's schedule. And then for the question above, I think our goal, right, and Ellen said it really well, our goal as a small school is to provide our students with as much individualized support and also as many options as possible to allow them to pursue their passions and interests. And so I think each year, we come together to review the course offerings. Each year we come together to review what students, or how many students sign up for each of the amazing elective options offered. And to that point, over the last couple of years, we've also had the opportunity to introduce like quarter-long mini electives and amazing opportunities for students to share their passions and skill sets with peers. So, I think we definitely do our best to try to meet each student where they're at and provide them with as many opportunities as possible to take classes in their skill sets. And on top of that, in an amazing way, and that this is something that can also be discussed in a course selection meeting, we offer independent studies. So if there's something that a child is not able to pursue in our curriculum, we have an independent study application process that they're able to partner with a teacher in order to complete a passion project. So all of this can be discussed as it pertains to each of your individual children in their meeting.
And one more note of, in terms of humanities offerings, just because I think that specifically asked about humanities offerings for electives, we do have some humanities offerings that are open to 11th and 12th grade. So they weren't on that list for 10th grade, but just if your kid's a humanities kid and you think like down the road, long-term, they're gonna wanna have more electives, there are some more offerings for 11th and 12th. So what you saw on the slide is not all the electives in the building, it's just all the electives for 10th.
All right, I will take a few. So there's like a few questions about AP classes that I'm going to try to combo everything together. One was like, how many, so it was about how many students typically take, or what's the average. I would say that students that choose to take it, choose to take advanced placement courses take at least the same amount in the following years they did the previous year. So what that means is in 10th grade, you take one, in 11th grade, you likely will end up taking one or more. And then in 12th grade, you will end up likely taking X plus, however many more you're comfortable to take. So for each student, it's really gonna vary. The average is a little bit skewed because the whole, there's outliers on each side. But it is probably over the course of 4 years, somewhere between 4 and 5. There's definitely students that take a handful more than that. And there's students that graduate not having taken an AP course or just haven't taken one. Again, this is college, introductory college level courses that, not everybody's prepared for while they're, a teenager in high school. And so, averages and maxes are misleading because each student is going to hopefully make choices that are best suited for them as a student versus what's the average. Because whether or not you have 5, 10, or 1, assuming that you want to go to college, you are going to college. We can't guarantee any specific college name, but like you will go to college. And even for the students on the high end of the pendulum, there's nothing guaranteed for them in terms of like a specific college outcome. It's a lot more complex than that, which we'll talk to you about as your child matures. But working towards a specific number is not getting you a specific outcome. There's no courses that are necessarily harder for 10th graders to get into than 11th graders. Potentially some of the computer science courses have gotten quite popular over time, and those could be one area where if it's over enrolled, 10th graders would be asked to wait until they're juniors to take. But almost everything else that is available to them, there should be seats available. As I believe Alyssa referred to, yes, the PSAT is offered for 10th graders. There is little discussion about preparation for that exam, quite frankly, because just the coursework that they're doing in the building in English class and in math class is preparing them for this test. And then when the results come out, which is at the end of the calendar year in December, and we have a sophomore parent meeting shortly following that in February of each year, we talk to you all about sort of what those results mean and how to make sense of it. But in terms of preparation, there's plenty of information you can find online to prepare, but you really don't need to, because just the sort of common core curriculum that has once been rolled out is modeled after the, the SAT, and that in itself should be preparing them to take that test.
Right, but also like the PSAT really is actually geared for 11th graders. Just to put that out there, like we welcome 10th graders to take it, but just so you know, it's really for 11th graders. That's who it was designed for. That's the population it's designed for. And it's wonderful that our kids want to practice and take it, but that's also why they don't really need to do preparation for it specifically, because it's really for 11th graders, because 11th grade is when our students will take their standardized testing for their college admissions profile.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Thank you, Ellen. For students that are looking to take on more challenging math work, you should talk to your child's counselor, and that you could have that conversation individually. There is a potential pathway to explore that. You need to talk to your child's counselor, and definitely talk to your child's math teacher as well to make sure that that's a wise thing to explore.
And it's also worth mentioning that accelerating is something that doesn't need to be done before 10th grade. Like we have had students accelerate between different grades all through high school. So, it isn't like a last chance to do this. There's, it's still an ongoing conversation and an opportunity that could potentially happen later on.
I could jump in for the next ones, Aaron, I don't mind. So if a student doubles up in science, does this mean the student will be taking an AP science course? Traditionally, that's what I've seen. Typically, if a student has doubled up in 9th grade, a lot of my students will take AP Chem, but you don't have to. There's AP Environmental Science, and there's also level 2 honors courses. So you don't have to take an AP Science, but that's just what I've seen. But definitely discuss during the course selection meeting, and your counselor can discuss that with you and your child. I see Mr. Kynes writing an answer for the AP History. Summer work. So summer work is required for every AP course, and then that information will be posted in June. If you look at the school website this year, last year's summer work is posted, so you could kind of get a sense of what the summer work could be looking like, and the expectation is that that work is done before the first day of school. And then as far as time commitments, we have a really great document on the course catalog that teachers filled in like estimated time that you would be spending in the class on homework, on studying, outside of the classroom. So that's a really good way for you and your child to kind of think about which AP or honors courses align best with your schedule and the type of work that you'd be expecting to do. And then I'll answer, when should we start thinking about SATs? You could possibly take the PSAT in 10th grade. You don't have to. Some math tracks, depending on what your child's at, like might not even reach what's on the PSAT. So that could be worthwhile to discuss with your child and your counselor. And then in 11th grade, that's really the time to start thinking about the SAT for most students. So you'll take the PSAT in the fall. And then we offer like mock tests as well through the PTA, if they want to take a practice ACT, just to kind of see the difference between the two, and then decide which test will be best for your child to take. So that'll kind of come in 11th grade. I guess, Aaron, do you want to wrap up?
Sure. So needless to say, we'll send this out in the slides, and one of the images was from a sheet. One of the elective offerings was from a sheet we created, which we'll also link to, which has like everything for 10th graders all in one spot. But I feel like this was quite productive based on the questions that came in. So we hope that you are able to take something actionable away from all of this. And again, we thank you for joining us, and taking time out of your day. So the last question, maybe, there's a question about sort of school resources to help students build leadership and community service capacity. So in terms of like a tangible resource, yes, I can also send that out. We did You know, we've tried over the years to aggregate much of the sort of summer offerings that's out there. There's too many to really keep track of, to be quite honest with you, but the department has tried to put everything sort of nicely together and categorize it so we can reshare that document for summer opportunities as it relates to like during the school day. You know, really just through school clubs, through teams, through, you know, community events would really be the avenue in which for a student to sort of start developing or building that leadership or community service component of their interests or of their sort of wants. And most definitely throughout the years, sort of like more opportunities present themselves to the students, right? So right now we have the freshman transition program, which you've all heard a lot about. There's juniors and seniors that are that are those transition leaders. So you're, you know, the class of 2028 is going to at some point soon have an opportunity to be those leaders. And so that too will be like just a natural opportunity for students in the building to get some community service or leadership experience, to, you know, just use as a building block for future, you know, future endeavors. All right, it looks like the questions have kind of stopped coming in. So again, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. We will send this out sometime tomorrow. I think many of the meetings start as early as next week. So please, again, check the file that's in your campus backpack. We thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting you, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks.